Welcome, everyone. We see a lot of folks who are popping into this expedition. We're so excited to have you with us. We are going to be spending some time with a longtime Fred member, Jenny Manzanilla, who has first became acquainted with Fred back in 2012 when we had a Fred outing in Boston. And what you'll learn about Jenny as she shares her story with us is that she has been a social entrepreneur since she was a teenager, and she has followed that path through her education and has done some extraordinary volunteer work through the Peace Corps in Madagascar. And today we're going to learn a bit about her story and about how encountering new cultures and new communities can help all of us to grow as a leader. So as we dive into this expedition, I would like you to be reflecting on things that might prevent you from engaging in conversations or interacting with people who might be different from us, and how collectively we might create pathways or vehicles that bring people together and encourage exploration and sharing. And one last thought starter, what conversations could I lead to potentially change the way we interact as humans for the better? We are going to have a very experiential session this morning, and Jenny's going to take us through maybe a taste of what she experienced when she was in Madagascar. And then we'll use that as a vehicle to have a dialogue about having conversations in cultures that we're just getting to know. And then Jenny will share her story as a leader, and we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So Jenny, welcome. How are things in Arizona?
Things are getting acclimated to a different culture here within the United States. Originally from Boston, East Coast, and Arizona and Boston are very different in many ways. But I mean, I think my experience with Peace Corps especially has taught me to be adaptable, especially here within the United States. So it has been great, and I'm really excited to be interacting with you guys and reliving some of my memories of serving in the Peace Corps as a, I'm living in Madagascar as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Beautiful. And Julie, I know that for our interactive portion, Julie Cook, I know for our interactive portion, we're going to be doing some renaming of ourselves so that we can divide into groups sensibly. So as Julie is doing that, I'd like to just take a moment or two to invite you to enter into chat what was most intriguing for you about this session. What causes us to have the pleasure of your company today? So let's take some time to do that. Or if you feel like using your vocal cords, you can take yourself off mute and simply share it with us that way as well, either in chat or while we're in gallery waiting to get our assignments for our breakout rooms. Such a quiet group today.
I mean, they're probably thinking, wow.
Yes. While you're thinking, I would say that, thank you, Peter, for your comment. Intrigued to learn more about Madagascar. Not superficial at all. I think understanding a new culture is one of the primary reasons. Mark, wow, I had no idea that your daughter did 4 tours with the Peace Corps. That's fantastic. What a life-changing experience that must be. Lemurs. Joe, I didn't even know that lemurs were originating from Madagascar. That's fantastic.
That is true. And then David. Hello, David. First met me.
And the topic, phenomena, intention, all speaks to Kathleen's heart. I love that. Seeing more, doing more. You know, this fine art of noticing, especially when we're have the opportunity to move into a new environment is extraordinary. And we learned so much about this.
I think as we think about the discussion from earlier today, hi everyone. As we think about the discussion from earlier today around empathy and compassion and leading with compassion, I'm interested today to just learn a little bit about different culture, but just the cultural nuances that can impact that, right? So that we can be more aware and more vigilant as we're engaging with and leading and communicating with others from around the world.
Very well said. And welcome,
Mm.
Ding Ding. Thank you for joining us. Ding Ding is one of Jenny's advisors.
Yeah, and
Or-
Obert followed my journey on Facebook when I was posting about my experiences.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And I think since being evacuated,
Uh-huh.
this is like one of the first times where I am actually truly reflecting. And I'm still, even as I'm going through graduate school, reflecting on my experience in
Mhm.
Madagascar and how it has changed me as a leader personally and professionally. So it has been quite a journey. So before I dive into my story, we are going to do kind of like a exercise where we're going to talk about leadership, and we're just going to be paying attention to how we are interacting with each other as we hone on some of the roles that we may be assigned during this simulation. So I'm actually, let me see, I might share my screen because I want you to be thinking about as we go, when we go into our breakout rooms and start having these conversation, think about these 4 questions. Let me put it in presenter mode.
Great. And Julie, as Jenny's doing that, you let us know when you have everyone where they need to be.
Yeah, so start thinking about how you're feeling during this meeting. How are other members interacting with you? How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel comfortable? Are you uncomfortable? Are you okay with being uncomfortable? And how are other members interacting with each other? Would you classify that as professional, unprofessional, more personal? Is it all right, in your opinion? And through these conversations that we're going to have in a bit, what did you learn about yourself? So we're going to reflect on that after we move away from our breakout rooms. But first, we're going to have like a little like mini orientation to prepare us for these conversations as soon as Julie gives us the cue. And then after our conversations, we'll debrief about that, and then we'll relate it all back to my experience, which it's an ongoing reflection of what it was like to serve as a Peace Corps volunteer in Madagascar.
Okay, I think we're good.
All righty, so are the breakout rooms ready?
They are.
Okay.
We will be putting you into breakout rooms, and we will also be sending into the breakout rooms a document, correct, Julie, with instructions?
Yes, so I'm going to be sending one person in the breakout room the document. I'll do that now. So just give me a little bit of time. Maybe 1 more minute to do that.
Sure.
So as we are in these breakout rooms, it is just going to serve as a mini orientation to prepare us all for the conversations we're going to be having.
I'm just also reading through some of the great comments in chat. Anjali, it sounds like you've had many on the ground projects with your MIT students in Southern and Eastern Africa. I'd be very curious as we go into dialogue afterward to hear about what resonates for you during this experience.
Sure.
We're almost ready. And then we'll have that magical experience that we have in Zoom where we just are transported. You know,
I know.
transponder.
Yeah, we will be teleporting.
Exactly.
That's a nice way of putting it, Julie. I always feel like I'm boomeranged back and forth.
Exactly. Room. That's true. can be very disorienting. I like to think about a time when that might be possible in real life, where we can, just fly in an eye blink to where we need to be. Stranger things seems to have happened.
Julie, welcome to the post-digital world. This is real life.
So true.
But you're going to give up the experience of flying in a silver tube for, 6 hours at a time? You really want to give that
Julie
up?
likes jumping out of them, so
I like to leave those things. I understand physics and I understand how it's possible, but Mark, I think the fact that those silver tubes can fly for 6 hours with all of us inside them is still bordering on miraculous.
for anyone that doesn't know this about Julie, she is a skydiver.
Woohoo!
Okay, so what I've done is I have sent the role briefings to one person in each group, so they can read it to the other people in the group. And I think we're ready to go now. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. And do you want to brief them on what they're doing there, or they already know that?
We'll jump into breakout rooms. So Julie has 3 of them and I'll have 3 of them and I'll brief them again, and then we can start with the mixer.
Great, I'm opening the rooms now.
Everyone, I was mistaken. We have to bring you back together again before we can separate you again. So that's why we're all gathering together in one room again.
All right, did we do something wrong, or we were trying to figure out what we were supposed to do?
So we're gonna be mixed into other breakout rooms where we're gonna begin honing on our roles in
Okay.
those breakout rooms. And then you'll have about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes in there. And then we'll come back and debrief about the conversations
Okay.
that we had in those rooms. Does anyone have any other questions?
You were going to send us the questions?
So for our meeting facilitators, if you look in the chat, I have included the document with the list of questions. So if you are going to be facilitating the conversation for your perspective room, you're welcome to download that.
I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it? I can send it again.
Okay.
It disappeared from the breakout room.
Yeah.
It disappeared for you
Probably
too.
only shows in the breakout room, probably.
Okay,
Yeah,
so here you go again.
We had the sheet that told us what to do, but we didn't have questions.
That's fine.
Oops.
We made our own up.
All it says is, oh, wait, let me see if I can get it here. No. No, it doesn't have the questions, it just says orange roll overview leading, then it stops.
Oh, I see a suggested question list on the one I clicked on, David.
Yeah, double click it, David, and it should open up in Word.
Orange overview.
Are we ready to go into our breakout rooms?
I'm also, David, just to make it super easy, I put the question list in chat.
There we go, okay. Oh, so travel.
Yes.
Yeah, mine
Yeah.
wasn't opening for some reason.
No worries. That's the joy of technology.
Yeah, but we take this seriously. You want to do a good job.
I love it.
I need to talk to you offline too sometime.
I would look forward to that.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I got a lot has happened the last time we've talked, so,
Oh, I can't wait.
yeah.
Okay, are we ready to go into the groups?
Let's do it.
Okay. So everyone is going into their groups now. Unfortunately, we lost one of the oranges. Someone who was orange. Oh no, let me do this. We do.
It's okay if we have one color not represented, we can make it work, I think.
Yeah, no, I think we've got it. She came back in.
Terry's still with us, though, it looks like.
Yes, Terry's being invited, but
Okay,
that invitation has to be accepted.
I see, okay.
And we got a great conversation going. Yeah.
People are starting to be back. I think we're at 25 people back, Jenny.
Orbert, you did an excellent job. I just want to note that I was playing a role and you handled it so beautifully, but I was so incredibly, I know I'm jumping the gun here, but uncomfortable in that role. So you were amazing. You were amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
that.
was wondering if that was part of your role, Heather.
Oh.
My God.
Really? Oh,
It was
wow.
so painful. Okay. Well,
Or maybe we
So-
just finally got to express our true selves, Heather.
So I'm seeing smiles, maybe friendships, lifelong bonds were formed in those 10 minutes that you were in there. If a few of you guys are comfortable enough to unmute yourself and share how you felt or answer any of these questions, you could do it in the chat as well. We're just going to debrief for about 5 minutes or so, and then I will dive in to my leadership journey, which I'm still on.
I had a hard time staying role. I thought based on the questions, it would be easy. I thought I was kind of naturally somewhat green, but not true. I think I have a hard time trying to be controversial. It has to come up sometimes, but to provoke, which I say I like to do, I was not a successful provoker, I think, in my interpretation of the rules. And it was making me uncomfortable because I was trying so hard to stay in role.
So
I have nothing to say, but just a picture to share.
thank you for that.
You mean this one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Facilitators?
I would love to. Yeah, it was really difficult for me because I was supposed to be blue and shy and quiet and soft spoken, which is nothing like my personality. But when the topics would come up and I wanted to share, about something, I had to no, and I had to, and then at one point, I think it was Sabrina who said, "Oh, I love your soft voice." I'm like,
Yeah, and in the chat, Joe has written, I felt pretty much left out of the conversation. It was really uncomfortable. So what was uncomfortable about it? I'm hearing a lot of people were not feeling in their element. Anjali says, I hated that Ariel was quiet.
Yeah, I was feeling it.
Yeah, it was very challenging for me to be quiet. But at the same time, I was really trying to imagine what it would be like to be an extreme introvert. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed was that as per the instructions, I picked somebody in the meeting and I was answering the questions in the chat only directly to Mark Hannum. And it was fascinating to me that, I think that because I'm the executive director of Fred, I think that people thought that I was just being quiet because I was trying to not dominate the conversation, but I was actually playing the role. And Mark didn't react to any of the stuff that I put in the chat to him, except for one really sort of inconsequential and somewhat flippant thing that I put in there. And so it was like, wow, this is really fascinating.
And I was only supposed to respond to people of my own gender.
Oh.
So I was supposed to ignore you, and I was. Best I could.
You did. That's like, why is Mark ignoring me? I don't understand.
Yeah, I was respecting your quietness, Joe, as the boss. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna, pull her in, but I think I pulled you in one time. And you
Yeah.
still seem like I'm too busy for this.
Yeah, I know. And I knew that's how you were going to react. And I was thinking, Orbit is just like trying to be really respectful and thinking that I'm just trying to be this fly on the wall in this session and everything. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's not you. That's definitely not me.
Yeah. So you all were given specific instructions and roles, and some of you guys felt more comfortable taking on those roles, others were not. And that feeling of discomfort is very similar to my experience serving as a Peace Corps volunteer in Madagascar. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And just talk a little bit about how I came in contact with Fred. So I became a part of the Fred community in 2012 when I was still completing my undergraduate studies at Berklee College of Music. There, I was majoring in music education in hopes that I could use music to help build connections and better the lives of inner city youth, both in Boston and in the Dominican Republic. I was fortunate enough to come into contact with this amazing group of people through my former headmaster who helped found Boston Arts Academy in Boston. And she was also a presenter that year at Fred Forum. And she was talking a little bit about what her alumni were doing. So as a student at Berklee College of Music, I started a club called Beyond Borders, which trained musicians to go abroad and engage in musical and cultural exchanges with people living in developing communities. And through that experience and through those exchanges, it was like my first time working in developing communities and coming face to face to humanitarian work. So after graduating from Berklee College of Music, I continue to teach music full-time for Boston Public Schools. And I also continue to travel to the Dominican Republic and work with the community there. I'm also Dominican American, but I was born and raised in Boston. So in addition to that, I also had the opportunity to connect with other Berklee alumni and travel to their countries where they were doing great work with community engagement and empowering youth through music. So in the picture on the far right, that's a cultural exhibition in Fiji, where one of my peers from Berklee started a community center called Kingdom Creative Arts, which he helped to give a voice to community members to come in for free and get free music lessons. So overall, I was living a pretty fulfilling life prior to joining the Peace Corps. However, at the time, I felt like something was missing. I felt too comfortable, too set in my routine, too in my element as a music teacher in a city I had grown up with and serving the community I was a part of all my life and I loved and I knew very well. And despite feeling that sense of fulfillment, I still felt like I needed to grow and my heart longed to be in a setting that was completely unfamiliar to me, somewhere where I could go and get to know myself on a deeper level and to connect with humanity. So I craved adventure and change. So for many, it came as a surprise that I decided to join the Peace Corps, given that I was already doing purposeful and impactful work in the city of Boston and abroad in my native country of the Dominican Republic. But my heart sought that change, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity for me to grow and get to know myself. So for those of you guys that are not familiar with Peace Corps is a US government agency that sends US citizens abroad to work on grassroots projects, all while living and immersing yourself in that new culture and living just like your counterparts. And as volunteers, we're expected to engage with our counterparts and live just like them. So I was one of the lucky volunteers that was selected to serve in the beautiful country of Madagascar. That for me was a transformational experience of a lifetime. I had the opportunity to explore the beauty of the wildlife, see the lemurs, the landscapes that are unique to Madagascar. I also had the opportunity to connect with many of the local tribes, and I made lifelong friendships, and in many ways consider this beautiful country also home. But getting to this experience was not all cotton candy and roses. There were many trials and challenges that I faced as a Peace Corps volunteer. And I firmly believe if I hadn't embraced the discomfort that comes with being in a completely new environment that is unfamiliar to me, I wouldn't be on this wonderful path that I am on today. So as Peace Corps volunteer, we are sent off to serve in our country of service as cohorts. In my cohort, I was one of 3 Black people of color, and the majority of our cohort was indeed white. And that feeling of discomfort started immediately upon the training, where I had to explain myself as an Afro-Latina American to other American volunteers, even though we had come together as Americans and to serve. So there was that. And also as volunteers, we are expected to live with host families without knowing the language. So literally on day 2 of me arriving into the country, we were sent off to live with Malagasy host family that had graciously volunteered their home to us. And at the time, we barely spoke the language. And I vividly remember that feeling of discomfort and feeling really anxious. Because at the time, I only could say 3 words in Malagasy: Manaona, Misotra, and Vukiaho, which means Manaona is the greeting, Misotra is thank you, and Vukiaho is like, I'm full. So I knew that I wanted that one word just because of what I was told about Malagasy people wanting to make their guests feel at home and make sure that they're very well fed. So I'm like, let me make sure that she knows that I've had enough rice. So Vukiaho. I was really, really nervous. And I just remember my host mother, I feel like she could sense me. She took me by my hand, looked me in the eyes, and just made me feel calm. And she brought me around the house and pointed at things and showed me how to use the latrines, because the bathrooms in Madagascar are not like the bathrooms we have here in the Western world. And at one point before I actually got to meet my host mother, I was questioning this. I was like, why am I here? Like, I'm like, this is so awkward. And from that moment, I just felt like, okay, this is right, after she guided me through the house. So that's one of the experiences. Another experience of discomfort was as volunteers were expected to integrate into the community and live similarly to what our host country counterparts live like. In this case, I would be fetching my own water, washing clothes, and being without electricity throughout most of my days. These are all things that I was prepared for, because when I was talking to my Peace Corps recruiter, they let us know that we would be living modest life. We wouldn't be living similar to how we live here. However, what I was not prepared for was getting comfortable with going to funerals frequently, experiencing death and honoring the dead through special Malagasy rituals. Initially, I thought the thought of being around a deceased person was something that scared me. I also did not expect to have to go accustomed to going to these funerals. But on the second day of me visiting the site where I would be permanently living, my host mother's father passed away. And although I was a foreigner, I was still adopted into this family, and I was expected per Malagasy tradition to see the body prior to it being prepared for the funeral. And the initial thought of it brought me anxiety. I called my cultural and language facilitator, and I'm like, okay, do I really need to do this? And she coached me through it and left it up to me. And ultimately, it was really important for me to build that relationship with my community. So I went through with it and viewed the body. And as I was in that room, again, that same feeling of comfort that I had when I initially met my host mother came back. And I felt like this was really the right thing to do. And because of me respecting my host family's Malagasy tradition, I was able to be treated as an equal, and people wanted to greet me and they respected me and they respected the work that I was trying to do alongside my counterparts. Also, as volunteers, we are instructed to identify a member of the community that could serve as our counterparts. I lucked out and I ended up having 2 counterparts. Both of my counterparts were great, but I didn't truly understand the value of having a male as an ally to help promote gender equity until I arrived in Madagascar. Generally speaking, Malagasy society is a male-dominated society. Yes, there are many male-dominated industry here in the United States and in other countries. And me being a foreigner and a woman, I was not always acknowledged or taken seriously as a leader. And also, to my personal story as well, I was raised by a single mother, and I didn't have necessarily the most positive perspective as far as like having a male ally and how they could work towards helping to promote gender equity. But that changed when I came into contact with Mr. Tino. So he is in the picture to the right next to me. So those are both of my counterparts. The lady to the left is Madame Voluluna, and she was the first female director for the middle school. And Mr. Tino, who was a respected community leader, father of 3 beautiful girls, he has started a club within the community to teach girls how to self-defense skills. And not only that, but he felt like it was his duty to not only instill leadership skills in women, but also to instruct the men to support young women in these leadership capacity and to work together. And that in itself was a lesson to me of just like how valuable it is to have that male allyship and for us to support one another and work together. And coming into this experience, I didn't have necessarily that view. My view was more or less like women needs to stick together and we need to fight for our rights, and that's it. And it completely excluded men from that part. So as a volunteer, I also partook in many secondary projects. One of them was working with a local girls group. During my 2 years, I managed this group with my counterparts, and it had grown into a group of about 25 girls, which later turned into a youth leadership group of 50 young men and young women. Anyway, the girls group had grown popular within the community. We led a lot of activities. They were doing great work sensitizing and teaching other girls about feminine hygiene, safe sexual practices, and the importance of gaining an education so that you can become a leader within your community and help to advance your community. However, one of the girls who was like one of our main ambassadors and the leader, one of the older girls and leaders of the group, had become pregnant out of wedlock. Teenage pregnancy is something that is common in Madagascar, especially in the rural areas. However, because this young woman was supposed to be a role model and a part of our group, people kind of just started questioning the group, questioning her. My counterpart was really upset about this. And she felt like the girl needed to be kicked out because she was ruining our reputation, according to the community, and discrediting our work. And she had gone against what we were trying to teach them. Again, with my personal background of being raised by a single mother, I had my own personal views on this. And up until that point, I tried to integrate and do things with the Malagasy way. But at this point in time, I felt like I needed to be there for this girl because she was being made fun of and excluded for things just because she had she had made essentially a choice that was done way prematurely and not up to community standards. And I wanted to be there for her, and her only support system at the time was this group. And by taking that away from her, she would essentially have been left alone. She was only 18 years old at the time. So I didn't feel comfortable coming in and trying to impose my way, but I did want to be there for her. So I had that conversation with my counterpart. And initially she was taken aback. She did not expect me to want to support her. And it was a bit of back and forth, but eventually she did try my way. And as soon as the community saw that I was standing by her and supporting her, they also to stop the rumor spreading and talking about her and starting supporting her as well. So I was really glad that I wasn't just a bystander in this situation. And I kind of took the opportunity and my privilege and my elevated status as an American in the community to kind of have this be a teaching moment for all. So these are just a few of the challenges and moments of discomfort that I experienced as a Peace Corps volunteer in Madagascar. From my arrival into country and as time progressed, I felt myself becoming wiser, more tolerant, more patient, and I discovered new ways to interact with my students and people. So as a result of me embracing this discomfort, by the end of my 27 months, I was able to grow with my community, and together we helped to positively impact the lives of many young people living there. The picture here is a picture of about 200 middle school students that are playing a leadership game led by the young men and women that was started by that initial group of 25 girls that I started working with at the beginning of my service. This picture ended up winning the 2020 National Peace Corps photo contest. And this photo holds a lot of sentimental value for me because it was one of the few moments where I had the opportunity to take a step back, actually take a photo of the work that was being done, and actually watch things unfold before my eyes with minimal involvement from me. So as a result of being able to work with my counterparts and embrace that discomfort, I was able to influence other people to take on leadership roles and to go out there and make a difference within their communities. And I hope this cycle continues with the next generation of youth after that. I know I'm a little bit over time, but this is just one last thing. Facing the fear of unknown and embracing new opportunities is what has opened up many doors for me. So after completing my 2 years of service in rural Madagascar, the work that myself and my counterparts had done did catch the attention of UN agency WFP, World Food Program. They were in the process of a strategic change within their organization, and the work that myself and other Peace Corps volunteers we're currently doing in mobilizing community and working directly with the community came to their attention. And as a result of that, I was invited to stay a third year in Madagascar and work with their school feeding program and helping to create new strategies to synthesize and mobilize the communities that they were working as well. So embracing discomfort as a Peace Corps volunteer helped me to grow on a personal and professional level. And as a result, I came out of this experience stronger, more self-aware, and more culturally empathetic. And I was able to begin to see what does it mean to be an impactful leader. That being said, you do not have to travel abroad as a Peace Corps volunteer to embrace discomfort and to become impactful within your organizations. You can have an impact as a leader within your organization by breaking out of your routine and embracing discomfort, the discomfort of that, by sitting down and having conversations with an employee that's different from you, or an employee that you don't necessarily see eye to eye with. by visiting that part of town or going to that restaurant you always drove by but never had the courage to enter because you didn't feel like you belonged. You can have an impact by trying to understand a situation from multiple perspectives, not just from your own, and getting outside of yourself, which is what this whole Peace Corps experience did for me. It brought me from my comfort of being in Boston, a place that I had grown up in and known so well, to being in a place that was completely unfamiliar to me, and me learning how to operate in that new setting. So in order for us to progress as a society, it is important to embrace the fear of discomfort, the fear of the unknown, and to have those difficult conversations. For me, I'm still on my path to growing as a leader and human being, but I hope to continue to invest my time and energy on purposeful work that will have a good impact on future generations. And I would like to end this session by inviting you all to challenge yourself as young leaders and managers within your organization, and try to think of other ways to become more unified and to go through that initial discomfort so that we can come together as a society and global citizens. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my story as a Peace Corps volunteer. Again, I'm still ongoing. The process is ongoing and I'm learning more and more. But thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
What a powerful story, Jenny. I know that some people may have hard stops at 1, but if it's okay with you, Julie, we'll leave the lines open for a few minutes so that people can ask questions of you live, Jenny, or in the chat. We have a saying at Fred that for leadership, we should start young and we're never done. And you are emblematic of that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I have a million questions, but I'd like to invite others to ask questions that might be on their minds first.
Just I'll break the ice. I appreciate you sharing your story of courage and purpose. I noticed your face on the picture you were doing laundry. It stood out for me. You didn't look happy.
I didn't look, I mean, it was happiness, and it was also like a grueling task, especially when you are busy doing other stuff. It's something I definitely took for granted here. Like, you just throw your laundry in the washing machine and forget about it. You can do something else. In Madagascar, I had to schedule literally certain things like 2 hours at a time to get them done well. At one point, I ended up hiring help just because I was doing too much. But yeah, I mean, like, the local people there, they managed to do that and more, which is impressive.
Yeah. Jenny, did you have choices of where your assignment might be? And was there something about Madagascar, which is pictured behind you, by the way, the tea fields of Madagascar? Was there anything that drew you to Madagascar in particular?
So when I applied to Peace Corps, now they have 2 ways of applying. You can choose the country that you want to serve in. At the time when I applied, I didn't really necessarily have a preference. So I told them to place me where I was needed most. So Madagascar chose me. And at heart, I was hoping to be in an African nation just because I wanted to make those connections with my own heritage and background as a Dominican American.
Thank you.
Jenny, I'm curious what it was like when you came back to the US, and what was after that experience, what did you, how did you both assimilate back, and then how did your thoughts change about coming back to an American society?
So I am still in the process of reintegrating into American society. I was evacuated prematurely because of COVID-19. I could say that things moved really fast for me here after being in Madagascar for over 2 years. That was the first thing that I noticed. I feel, and the people around me have noticed, a sense of just overall patience and calmness. Like, things that would annoy most of us, or prior to me being in Madagascar, for example, there being a train delay, didn't quite bother me per se, or just kind of like being okay with ambiguity and just going with the flow. Like prior to being in Madagascar, I was really used to structure, but in the rural side and with the way of life, things are not always as structured. For example, if you're going to meet someone, they'll tell you, I'll meet you sometime in the afternoon. There isn't an exact time. So the sense of time was different once I was back here.
Thank you.
I want to thank you again because you've really been doing great work in the world, and sharing your insights with us has been so valuable. And Jenny's doing this in the midst of midterms, by the way, folks. So this is coming at some extra devotion on her part.
So my question in the chat, Julie, which is for all of us, perhaps as much
Yes,
as to you,
please.
Jennifer. I loved how you ended. It was going to be my question about, what about those of us who are at a stage in our lives when, even though you called us all young leaders, which I loved, can't make the kind of commitment that you did at this moment, both because of professional and personal sort of situations. And you started touching on some of the things, but especially for us as Fred, what are the ways that, we can distill some of the essence that this experience has been for you and for others like you, and offer that to people that really can't take so many months or a year or more out of their life, as much as they might like to.
I think it could be as simple as just starting, even with like greeting someone that you're not used to greeting, or someone that you don't necessarily get along with, and just opening the chain of communication with people that have opposing views from yours, and having a conversation to not necessarily impose your way, but to understand and connect and find areas of commonality. I think that's something that could be done over lunch. It could start with a greeting, maybe organizing some type of social within your organization. I think it's really important to not only